Welcome to today's video about numbers and counting. This video focuses on counting, but there are different parts to learning about number. The stages of number learning are forwards and backwards counting, counting objects, recognising numerals or numbers, sequencing and ordering numbers, exploring numbers, copying numerals in writing, and addition and subtraction. The first thing we're going to talk about is counting. We want your child to be able to count forwards and backwards. At nursery, we always start with the number 0. There are lots of different ways to do forwards and backwards counting at home, just part of your everyday life. You don't have to sit the child down and do anything specific. You can sing number songs when they're in the bath. You can count the stairs or your steps when you're out walking. You can play the count how many cars or trees game when you're walking to nursery. And encourage your child to count with you. Start by you counting and then say, can you copy what I'm doing? Or you can count and then stop and let your child continue counting. When your child gets really good at counting forwards, you can introduce counting backwards. The fun way to do this, and the way that the children like the best at nursery, is to do blast off like a rocket. You can start by doing the 10 down to 0, and then they can shout blast off. And the more you do it, the more able your child will be to count down themselves. Introducing counting in this way is fun and helps your children to understand number lines and number sequencing. There are lots of different number songs on YouTube, like 5 currant buns in a baker's shop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 cyclotta fish alive, and 10 green bottles. If you scan the code on this page, it will take you to the BBC Teach website, where they have lots of number songs that you can sing with your children. The next part to learning about number is counting objects. So when your children start to have an interest in number and are beginning to count forwards by themselves, then you can introduce counting. We want children to be able to count one object at a time. So when they see the number 1, they point to one object. They don't count 1, 2, 3, 4 and just point to lots of different objects. It has to be one object for one number. In nursery, we call this touch counting. If you've watched our other videos, you'll know that we encourage all of our learning through play. Counting objects is an easy one to do through play. When your children are playing with their cars, their teddies or dolls, you can count how many. They can count how many fish fingers they have for their tea that day. Or if you have dominoes at home, you can count the dots on the dominoes. You can count first to model what it looks like, going really slow and counting one object for one number, and then encourage your child to copy you. One of our favourite games to play at nursery is the Cheerio game. You get a piece of spaghetti and stick it onto a piece of blue tack, some Play-Doh, anything really that will make it stand up tall, and then you have a race who can put the most Cheerios onto the spaghetti. Then once you've done that, you can count the Cheerios, and this helps your child learn about counting and also how to touch count one at a time. You don't have to use Cheerios, you can use pasta, or if you have dominoes at home, you can count the numbers on the dominoes. Dominoes are a good one because they all have regular patterns, so your child will soon start to realise what a 4 looks like in dots. They will look at it, and then eventually they will be able to look at it and guess it's a 4 without counting the dots. Not all children will have an interest in number, and sometimes children don't have the concentration to sit and play number games. That's why the best way to play is through movement. If you have a dice at home, you can roll it and count the number of dots on the dice, and if you don't have a dice, you can just pick a number out of your head. Play games like clap the number or jump the number. You have a go first to show your child what to do. Remember to go slow, and then ask them to copy you. Another way to do this is pick a number and ask them to climb the stairs. This active type of game is good for children to learn about number without having to sit down and have lots of concentration. Remember that if your child is struggling with larger numbers, start small, do 1 to 5. Another way that we learn about counting in nursery is by using your fingers. Now this is a tricky one for most children, not because they can't count, but because their fingers won't move the way that they want them to. Encourage lots of counting on fingers at home. You can count on the children's fingers and then ask them to count. You can sing the song about 1 little piggy, 2 little piggy, 3 little piggy, 4. If your child's really struggling with manipulating their fingers, there are tricks that you can do to help with this. In nursery, we fill a glove with flour or rice, and then they can put the fingers of the glove down. Or we can cut round their hand and glue the palm to a piece of paper, like in the picture. If you think this is something that you might need at home, just ask and we can provide it for you. You may have seen these shapes before. They are called Numicon, and they're a resource that we use in nursery to teach children about number. They're a really good resource because if you look at number 2, the shape of number 2 is half of the shape of number 4. So when we start to do adding and subtracting, 2 number 2's fit right on top of number 4. This helps children understand that 2 2's make 4. Every child should have a set of Numicon cards, but if you don't, just ask the nursery and we can provide some. You can use the Numicon cards all around your house, put them on the wall and just talk about them as you walk by, or you can have them out when your children are playing with their cars or their Lego. You could count the cards and then find the card that matches and show your child what the number 2 looks like, or ask them to find the number 2. Remember, the best way to support learning at home is through play. Here are some hints and tips. You know what your child can do best. If you know that they don't like to do sitting down games, or they maybe don't have good concentration, play a more active game like counting the spots on the floor or counting the stairs. Make sure if you're going to do some home learning that you're not called away or you don't have anything to do. Put your phone away and get down to your child's level to play. Remember to give lots of praise and encouragement, and most importantly, remember to have fun. We hope you found this video useful and that you have lots of hints and tips about how to support counting learning at home. Once you've finished this video, you can move on to our video about sequencing numerals and numeral recognition. Remember, we have lots of resources that can support you at home. All you have to do is ask your child's key worker.